ready to start. Apologies for the slight delay. We are starting the second EU press conference this week at COP30. On my left-hand side, we have Commissioner for Climate, Net Zero, Clean Growth, Wopke Hoekstra, and Lídia Pereira, the head of the European Parliament delegation here at COP. Without further ado, I pass the floor to Commissioner, please.
Thanks very much, Anna, and ladies and gentlemen, very good to see you again. Very happy to be here once again with Lídia Pereira, who is, together with the other members of the European Parliament who are present here, doing an absolutely amazing job. Here at the COP, but also at home in fostering ambition, making sure we continue with this transition, and that's something I truly deeply commend. We are midweek, or almost midweek. The pace is intense. I very much welcome the sense of urgency the Brazilian presidency is giving to the whole endeavour, because indeed there is no time to waste. And as a negotiator, you might think it is comfortable that there's half a week left, but we always know that speed is of the essence if you want to deliver on time. So where are we? Where do we stand? One thing is crystal clear, and I keep repeating that. For the European Union, success here is about ambition, and in particular about addressing the implementation and the ambition gap. That has to be our starting point, because we are coming, and all the scientists outside of this room are telling that to us, we are coming dangerously close to truly destructive tipping points. So let me state clearly once more, we're standing for our commitments. We will fully deliver on each and every element of the NCQG, also on adaptation, that will be part of it, and we know how important that is, especially for the most vulnerable. For the EU, the only way we can call this COP a success, therefore, is by putting the words on all these things into action. Maybe a few things on process. We have, of course, as we always do, reached out extensively, consulting with friends and partners from all over the globe, from Palau to China, from South Korea to Colombia, with very much like-minded countries and with those with whom we feel there's room to discuss. And in general, our read is that many parties here do want to make sure this COP is a success. Because what we're facing here is larger than just us. This has huge ramifications for everyone that is currently inhabiting the planet, but clearly also for those coming afterwards. So, ladies and gentlemen, many more things to say, but let me pause here and thank you very much once again for your attention. And dear Lídia, as always, fantastic to have you here on my side.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll pass the floor, Parliament Chair.
Good morning, bon dia. Thank you very much, Commissioner Hoekstra, and thank you as well to Brazil for the organization of this COP30. That it has a very symbolic reading, given the fact that we are at the gates of Amazonia. For the European Parliament, within the mandate that brings the European Parliament delegation to Belem, we really want to say that we have brought ambition, and we would like to go back to Europe with a true commitment on implementation. We have been very clear on the importance of delivering on mitigation, and we come here as well with an approval of the review of the European climate law that sets the target for 2040. So we are truly committed in continuing the efforts that we have been making in terms of mitigation and combining it with an economic model to promote European competitiveness, but as well with a true recipe for other geographies in the world to come on board and share the efforts we have to make to deliver on climate change, but most importantly, to deliver on future generations. And to deliver on future generations, it's also not only on environmental goals, on sustainability, but also on prosperity. And I think this is something crucial when we also are concerned to see the developments on adaptation. It is something that we also have to discuss, and we would like to see some more resolution on the matter. Another topic that is crucial for the European Parliament over the past years is the phasing out of fossil fuels. There really has to be the commitment because we know that in Europe it is possible to decarbonize and grow, and this is something that we want to do together with our partners globally around the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And now I'll turn to your questions. I will bundle a couple of those. Please state your media and your name at the beginning. I see in the first row, men, please, with the black shirt over here.
Matteo Civillini, Climate Home News. Where does the EU stand on the call to triple adaptation finance coming from developing countries? What is an acceptable compromise for you?
Then second row, I see Politico over there.
Thank you. Zia Weiser from Politico. You said that ambition is the key thing for the EU here. Why has the EU as a whole not backed the roadmap to transition away from fossil fuels? Thank you.
And the last one on this row, first row. I'll take others later.
Ricardo Garcia from Amazonia Vox. Does the EU support a roadmap for the end of fossil fuels as an outcome of this COP?
Lídia? Commissioner, please.
Thanks very much. And just to be crystal clear about the roadmap, we very much like it. And even though we might not use the word roadmap in Europe, we do have a very, very clear trajectory that is about phasing out fossil, that is about making sure we're moving into an energy system that is completely different than what we have today. And we're calling it Fit for 55 in the trajectory towards 2030. And we are embarking on a similar exercise for 2040, where we will be at 90% of emission reductions. We do actually think it is a great thing to move the needle here as well. We have spent a lot of time also consulting with others to make the group that across the globe that can accept that as broadly as possible, as large as possible. We truly think there is merit in making that group larger, and whether then we're going to call it a roadmap or we're going to use different wording, I think is secondary. But once again, we very much like the idea. Then secondly, on finance, and adaptation is at the very heart of the conversation we're having with, in particular, many of our friends from the Global South. Because what is the reality here? The problem we're facing in terms of climate change has mushroomed into such a large thing that mitigation alone, unfortunately, will no longer be able to do the trick. It's just not enough. Had we started 20, 30 years earlier, it might have, but now it is not. So we stand by every single letter of our commitment, also in financial terms, of last year. And what we will do also is our utmost to make sure that more of this money will be reaching the most vulnerable. In particular, our friends in the SIDS and the LDCs, because that is where the money is needed the most and where the responsibility for the problem we're facing clearly is the lowest.
Lídia, please.
Well, I will answer more in a general approach. I think when it comes to triple any financial commitments, it is crucial that the commitment here at this COP is that people and partners are committed to deliver on the previous agreements that were signed in the previous years. This is crucial. We have been saying in the European Parliament it's time to put our words into action, and so it is time to deliver on those commitments. When it comes to transitioning away and the roadmap or the action plans, I believe that the European Union is a good example of what it is possible to do in terms of reducing our emissions and at the same time promoting economic growth. We have set a number of initiatives that started with the presentation of the Green Deal in December 2020. Then we approved the European Climate Law. Then we approved the Fit for 55, and now we are in a position to together with the businesses, with the partners in academia, with science, and doing and delivering policy based on science, that it is possible to implement the same measures, knowing that in this framework and in this transition, that it is possible to create new jobs, new prosperity, and delivering for people at large. So I believe that this COP really has to be the COP of implementation. I've been attending several COPs over the past years, and it became very clear that if we do not abide by the agreements that we sign, then we can keep the dialogue, and this is very important, that we, for 2 weeks, in 1 year, that we put climate and environment at the top of political priorities, but within the rest of the year that we really have to be committed to implementation.
Thank you. I'll take the floor. I'll take the lady here at the back in the second row, please.
Thank you. Daniela Chiaretti from Valor Econômico, São Paulo. Thank you. Commissioner, just coming back to the question of the colleague from Politico, you are mentioning that there are, what kind of words it will be acceptable for the European Union to be on board of the fossil fuel roadmap as a whole? And what are the problems, if you can clarify us a little bit of what is going on?
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to the fourth row over there on the left-hand side with a blue shirt. Thank you.
Thank you. Lucas Knigge for Table Briefings. The EU has been suspiciously quiet about the text that landed yesterday morning, especially on trade. Did you like what the COP presidency submitted there, and what amendments for changes did you submit to the presidency on the trade issues that have been very disputed, also, especially within the European Union? Thank you.
I'll take one more to the man right in front of him.
Thank you. This is Leo from Scomodo, Italy. There is something that I don't... Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. There is something that I don't understand, because a lot of solutions proposed imply digital and data-driven solutions, and I'm wondering why putting so much effort on solution that requires mining, steel, water and energy, and in general. And also, what do you think about the fact that there's not much on the floor, the ideas of degrowth instead of growing, and the linking instead of fostering the dependency of global south to global north, and demilitarization instead of rearm, for instance,
That covers many angles. Perhaps, Commissioner, you want to start?
Maybe one thing to add on the roadmap, just to be crystal clear, we have fought long and hard for each and every of the elements that are part of the UAE consensus, including the transitioning away from fossil fuels. And that example actually articulates exactly why we are principled, and we do want to make sure we are ambitious on the matter itself. But if we need to bring others, not the Europeans, others into the tent as well, we are a bit more flexible in the wording that expresses the same thing. Then I think there is merit in doing that. Just to give you the example here. At the very end, in the UA, we first had the conversation about phasing out, which was the preference of the European Union and many others. There was wording that was unacceptable to some, and then we have come up with transitioning away. And then you can have a linguistic debate about whether that is exactly the same. Some might even say that transitioning away is stronger. But what matters here is that we put the stuff that we agreed on in the UAE into action. And then I'm also sensitive to those outside of the European Union who are saying, look, can we then please not only focus on transitioning away, but also on the doubling, also on the tripling, basically on all the elements that were part of the UAE consensus, and try to make that concrete. And I think that is a hugely important effort, and that is something where we will be spending a lot of our time on, because it matters if we do that just with the Europeans and a few others, or whether we manage to do that with a supermajority, as we managed to pull off in the UAE. Then secondly, on the text and trade, we've had a set of excellent conversations yesterday, also a very good and fruitful conversation with us and a number of other parties and the Brazilian presidency. We have been clear, and I think it is very broadly understood, what CBAM is and what CBAM is not, and that it is of pivotal importance if you want to continue with climate action, to then also have these type of tools that manage to prevent carbon from leaking out of the European Union. My read is that it is very much understood, and even though we might not be fully there in terms of the text, I'm confident that this, again, fully reasonable ask is going to be part of the final text. Then the last thing, I don't fully recognize the things you were mentioning about the footprint, but let me just make one general observation about growth. What the whole world, but certainly the middle class, and even more the many, many poor people around the world need, is more sustainable economic growth. Not the type of growth we've had before, but more sustainable economic growth. And then a distribution that is fairer than it is today. That is what we should do. Let's not be lured into the fantasy that actually less growth is going to help those most in need. The reality is that every period with a recession of depression that the world has ever seen has always gone at the expense of those most in need. So the recipe cannot be the same as it was in the past. It needs to be different. It needs to be clean, sustainable economic growth, but growth of that type we do need all across the globe.
Parliament will want to.
Well, I would agree to what was just mentioned by Commissioner Wopke, and I would add that we have to deliver policies for the people and with the people, not against the people. If a politician goes to speak to their constituency and tell them, are you willing to give up on your salary, on your standard of living for the sake of an agenda? Probably that answer will be a no. So we have to deliver on sustainable growth with the people in a constructive manner, in a way that with technology and taking advantage of the great innovations that are happening, not only in countries in the European Union, but as well here in Brazil and South America, everywhere in the globe, it is necessary to take advantage of this technology, to invest in clean technologies. And I believe the European Union, with the setting of the 2040 target, it can be a hub for new technologies, for carbon capture and many others, but always with a sense of responsibility and with a sense of community. And this is the reason why I'm a strong believer that environment and economy are not opposites. They are not against each other. The resources in our planet, they are finite. We know that we cannot deliver and go beyond what the planet Earth brings and gives to us. But this has to be with the people and with all the stakeholders in our planet, and knowing that economy and environment can go hand in hand.
I see here at the front, the first row.
Thank you. John Ainger from Bloomberg. Commissioner Hoekstra, just to be clear, do you support the tripling of adaptation finance by 2035? Because I think a lot of LDCs, small island states, are looking for some EU leadership on that front. And just secondly, President Lula is in town today. What are your expectations? Will you be meeting him, and what's your message? Thank you.
Please, on this side, the man there at the back, he has been patiently waiting. Thank you.
Larry Moffat with the Press Club, Brussels, Europe. The European Parliament, I think for the third year in a row now, in its resolution of 23 October on COP30, has called on all parties to engage in the development of a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty, a treaty that's already been supported by 18 countries. What progress do you see on that front, and how do you see it fitting with the roadmap?
And the last one here, I think, Josh over here.
Hello. Various member states have cut their aid budgets and haven't set new plans for climate finance in the coming years. We've been told throughout this the EU is looking to offer reassurances to the countries that are asking for more Article 9.1 climate finance. How can the EU offer those reassurances when, given the situation I described? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please go ahead.
Well, to answer the question that was put forward on the Treaty of Non-Proliferation of Fossil Fuels, I believe that there is an opportunity to engage and to coordinate better with the discussions that are ongoing in what refers to the action plans or the transitioning away of fossil fuels. And we believe that together with the European Commission, we will assess whether it is feasible. It would be great. It's not the first time, as you mentioned, that it is approved in the COP, in the resolution of the European Parliament. We are working to make it again at least an item for discussion.
So very briefly, once again on adaptation finance, we fully stand by our commitment of last year. We do think there's a huge opportunity to make sure that more of the money arrives for those most in need. That is something we've been advocating for consistently. We will not, and we don't think we should be tempted to in any way open the NCQG, and we don't think every conversation about the numbers is typically the most helpful way to advance it, but we are in very constructive conversations with many of our friends and partners. As for President Lula's presence, I think it is fantastic that he is also putting his full political weight behind this. And could I take the opportunity to once again commend the whole Brazilian presidency and everyone involved, clearly André de Lago, Marina Silva, Anna Toni, also Minister Adachi, the Vice President, all of them with whom I had the pleasure and the honor to interact over the course of the last 1.5 years, in my view, have been doing an excellent job in making sure that we're pushing this agenda forward. So very much looking forward to continuing the conversation with all of them, and of course, in particular, with the esteemed President of Brazil. Then on the aid from Europe. Actually, if you look at 2023 and you compare that with 2024, you will see that the number actually went up. And that Europe is still at roughly 30% of all the money that is being put on the table. That is more than our fair share. And the best way to make sure that Europe can sustain that is inviting others who have the ability to do so, who in many cases have a GDP per capita that far outpaces that of the vast majority of European member states, to chip in as well. That is what is needed. Everyone with the ability to do so should rise to the occasion and take responsibility to do their fair share. We will continue to do so, but it makes it a hell of a lot easier if others are joining in.
Very clear, Commissioner. We can take a couple of more questions. This man in the first row, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Toby Aykroyd, World Europe Foundation. I'd like, if I may, to ask a question about an apparent conflict at the heart of EU climate change strategy. You talk about high ambition for both climate and competitiveness, quite rightly, and it's entirely achievable. And yet at the same time, you're gearing up support for solid bioenergy, wood bioenergy. It's currently the leading form of renewable in Europe. And if BECCS goes ahead, that's bioenergy with carbon capture and storage, is likely to be using something around 35 to 40 billion per annum by 2050 of scarce capital. And yet it has provenly higher carbon dioxide equivalent emissions than the fossil fuels it's supposed to be replacing, including coal. It destroys large areas of biodiversity-rich carbon sink that's needed for mitigation. It's 3 or 4 times more expensive than both genuine renewable energy sources and demand-suppressing enterprise. And that enterprise and those alternative resources, which are thereby deprived of capital, are far more productive for the competitiveness agenda in terms of GVA, gross value added, high-tech employment, and counter-inflation policy. Could you explain that dissidence, please? Thank you.
I'll take the lady next to him, please.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Nada. I'm a climate justice activist and a College of Europe alumni. I have a quick question. You mentioned talking about developing policies for the people and with the people, and looking out for the most vulnerable communities. However, when we look at the unilateral trade measures that has been proposed by the European Union, we do not see that represented at all, with the CBAM being developed with not sufficient consultations by the stakeholders and affected parties, and a one-size-fits-all that essentially are not affecting vulnerable communities not unequally. So with that being said, I was wondering if the European Union is going to budge when it comes to unilateral trade measures like they had done when it comes to the language on fossil fuel transitioning away, or the European Union is steadfast in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take one more question. Please state your media and your name, please. The lady in the third row.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Williams. I'm from Pacific Island Times. So there's been some new science, or the latest science released earlier this morning from Climate Analytica. Their report states or rates the EU's 2030 target and climate policies as insufficient to align with the Paris Agreement 1.5 degrees goal. It calls for a 62% reduction below your 90 levels by 2030 and more concrete fossil fuel phase-out dates. So how does the EU plan to strengthen your targets, your policy implementation, your international climate finance? You've talked lots about it here. It sounds like it's at a national level that you want to focus the work. But how then will you address the gaps at the global level, especially when it comes to demonstrating your leadership commensurate with your global responsibility? Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, you will want to start?
Yeah, so first on all the questions with regards to Europe's own energy mix are really domestic stuff, that we should discuss back home. The one thing I can say is that if you look at our 2035 and our 2040 commitments, what makes this crystal clear is that we are doubling down on the energy transition that we need even more. And what the exact policy mix will be, more than happy to discuss, but these targets are what they are, and they are implying a hugely different industry system and also a hugely different economy. Then one more time on CBAM, and we have been having this conversation also at the previous COP. Those who were part of this audience, we have had a range of conversations, and we will continue to have them patiently and politely with all interlocutors. But what this is a force for good, a tool that helps to make sure we're pricing emissions. We're doing that diligently with others, and it is part of our climate toolbox. It helps making sure we reduce emissions, and that is the name of the game. Then finally, I haven't seen the report you mentioned of this morning, but just to be crystal clear, and this is backed up by scientists from all over Europe, the 55 reduction for 2030, the NDC that we have just come up with, and the 2040 90% target are in line with science. They're Paris proof and they're 1.5 proof.
Please. I would add on the question related to CBAM, and also to take this opportunity to explain that the European process is a very participated process, and that's, I think, something that it is important to say, because we listen, at least in the Parliament, my experience, I listen to all the stakeholders potentially impacted by any policies that we are delivering, legislation that we are working on, and I believe that we have arrived in good terms when it comes to CBAM, and as Commissioner Wopke was explaining, it is crucial at this phase that there is a good explanation together with the different interlocutors, but this is a climate measure that we will have a very positive impact in calibrating all the commitments from different partners around the globe. I would also like to say that when it comes to technology and different sources of energy, it is stated in the commitment or in the decision of the 2040 target, the review of the climate law, that technological neutrality is key in whatever we do next when it comes to decarbonization of our economy, and that will obviously be something that the European Parliament will closely monitor and ensure that we are delivering. And lastly, on the question that was put forward related to the report that unfortunately I also didn't have the opportunity to look into, what I can say is that in Europe we are staying in course. And this is important because it means that the strategy that we have been unfolded over the past 10 years, it is the way that we want to deliver in terms of not only environment but economy and, as I said at the beginning of this press conference, for the future generations. Thank you.
I see that some of you were still having questions, but for this press conference we have run out of time. Thank you very much for your participation, especially to Commissioner Hoekstra and Head of the European Parliament, Lídia Pereira. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and see you soon. Well done.